Welcome to It's a Crime. I'm your host, Margaret McLean. One of the most significant pieces of evidence in the Karen Reed trial is the right rear passenger side taillight on her Lexus SUV. In the second trial, jurors will soon be debating whether that taillight was broken when she struck her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV, or she broke her taillight as demonstrated in this clip 4.5 hours after the alleged incident at around 5 in the morning. This is Karen backing out of John's garage. The defense argued this theory during the first trial. It's crazy. This case really boils down to a broken taillight. So let's dive right in and figure out how this taillight was broken. First of all, does Karen Reed even admit that she broke her taillight during the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022? The answer is, yeah, she does admit it, but she doesn't quite know how she did it. The prosecution has produced witnesses who heard Karen say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," referring to her boyfriend John O'Keefe. The defense argues that these witnesses are either lying or they misheard her, and other witnesses testified that Karen made statements like, "Did I hit him? Could I have hit him?" So she wasn't quite sure what happened that night. According to witness testimony, Karen also pointed out her broken taillight to Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts before they found John's body in the snow. Also, when the police asked Karen about her broken taillight, she said, "I don't know how I did it last night." This time around, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan anticipated the defense argument that Karen broke her taillight when she backed out of the garage, hitting John's Chevy Traverse that was parked in the driveway. So, he hired Dr. Judson Welcher, a prominent crash reconstructionist and biomechanical expert, to look into that. Welcher analyzed the video, took laser measurements, and used sophisticated 3D digital modeling to demonstrate that this minor impact, which he said was less than 1 mile an hour, could not have damaged Reed's taillight. Take a listen.
This lower portion of the Lexus bumper sticks out. Notice how the side of the Chevrolet slopes in as you get higher up. So this portion sticks out more than this portion. And this is where you would expect any contact damage to occur, assuming there was an impact. But notice the tracks in the snow. So we have very definitive locations for the wheels of the Lexus. We lay over a grid on the various frames. So we then took the images and did what's called clarification, which is where you overlay images from multiple versions or multiple views of the same vehicle, and it helps sharpen the image. And that's because what we've done is we've now overlaid the points from the laser scan. So now each one of these little speckly points, we know the exact 3D coordinates. So using that information, it's called solving for the camera. So this is the Lexus lined up. So we took a whole bunch of data points within those two areas where the snow got dislodged. Again, I had the opportunity to inspect Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. There's no damage where these marks are. So, sure, it knocked the snow off, but it wasn't sufficient to cause damage to his vehicle. We then mapped that data onto Miss Reed's vehicle to look at where that height is. So you can see the only contact marks are down at the bumper level. I mentioned how that bumper sticks out. This is exactly where you'd expect it. So the only evidence of contact is nowhere near the upper taillight. I emphasize the word upper taillight because it is right in line with the lower tail light. But yet the lower tail light also was not broken. 25 and a half, that's right where that scuff mark was. It's also right at, again, the level at the top of that light. This light is not broken. I've looked at the front of it, I've looked at the back of it, I've looked all around it, it's not broken, and it sticks out further than the light above it. Using those positions, matching the overlay of the vehicles, we can get the speeds from that. We know where the Lexus is, we know how much time it is between each frame, so we know how far it moved. And so what we know is that when it first came to a stop, right before that, it was going about 0.7 miles per hour. So realistically, somewhere between a half to 1 mile an hour, just to account for some variations, but definitely going 1 mile an hour or less at impact. That's the dimensions. Similar to what I said, no damage to that light, no damage to Mr. O'Keefe's traverse in that area.
You did your analysis and study trying to include or exclude this touching as the source of damage to the defendant's Lexus rear right taillight. Did you consider speed as part of that analysis?
I did. I considered speed, and then again, knowing we have the positions of the vehicle, we looked at the degree of overlap, and there's only about 2 to 3 millimeters of overlap between the vehicles, which is insufficient to cause the tail light that's recessed in from the edge on the right rear of the Lexus to contact the rear of the Chevrolet.
Considering all the data and analysis that you did you come to a conclusion, to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty, whether the right rear taillight of Miss Reed's Lexus was broken or damaged during the contact with Mr. O'Keefe's car at around 5:07 a.m. on January 29, 2022?
That impact did not break or crack that taillight.
Is that your opinion?
That's my opinion.
Is that to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty?
That's to a high degree of engineering certainty.
Dr. Welcher further testified that when Karen's Lexus traveled in reverse at approximately 20 miles per hour, that's when she struck John O'Keefe, and that's what broke her taillight. He further added that if the car was traveling at only 8 miles per hour and it struck John O'Keefe, that would be enough to break the taillight as well. Now, the defense doesn't have to prove anything, but they will try to persuade the jury that Karen damaged her taillight in John's driveway and then it was shattered later on by corrupt members of law enforcement trying to frame Karen. They believe that pieces of the taillight were planted at the scene and in John's clothing by corrupt and fired State Police Trooper Michael Proctor. That's what Attorney Alan Jackson promised in his opening statement.
A rush to judgment, conflicted and corrupted from the start. Corrupted by bias, corrupted by incompetence, and corrupted by deceit. Finally, it was corrupted by a deliberate effort to avoid and to cover up the very truth that you are seeking.
The defense will call crash reconstructionists from the company ARCA, Daniel Wolf and Andrew Rentschler. Will these experts testify that the driveway bump could have damaged the taillight? Well, it's highly unlikely because in the previous trial, they did not believe the bump could have damaged Reed's taillight. So I'm not sure what the defense is going to do about that. In the next video, I'll analyze the overall impact of the prosecution's case, and we'll see what surprises the defense has in their back pocket. In the meantime, I'll be discussing the case until we reach a verdict with Vinnie Politan on Court TV at night and on NBC's Canton Confidential at 7 o'clock. And I'll be live streaming along with Kevin Lenahan on Yellow Cottage Tales. Once again, thank you for listening to It's a Crime.